Hello and welcome back to the channel, guys. Today's gonna be a little bit different, and I just want to take a second to ask you guys, can we talk about Final Fantasy 16? I cannot begin to describe how excited I am for Final Fantasy 16. It's coming out tomorrow. I got the game pre-ordered, it's downloading, and I am so excited to play it. I've played the demo. I'll tell you right now, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. Just the demo experience. I'm not talking about the game yet. Once I've played the game, I'll definitely talk about it again. But for right now, if you guys have access to a PlayStation 5, go download the demo. Download the demo and just get into it, because you're not going to want to miss this game if you like any type of action, RPG, or heavy storytelling games. And without further ado, let's get into it. First off, I'd like to start off by saying that I started with Final Fantasy in Final Fantasy X, where you get to play as Titus. Now, this is a completely different genre of game. In FF10, it was a turn-based game. It wasn't really my cup of tea, but I enjoyed the story so much that I actually went all the way through until I died at the very last boss and just decided to call it quits. But we're not gonna get into that. It's a story for a different day. The one thing I did take from Final Fantasy X was, one, the music, to the story. So I was asking myself, how is Final Fantasy 16 going to compare? Because I mean, one, it's a completely different type of action game compared to the previous games, and how is the music going to hold up compared to Final Fantasy X? Well, I am more than happy to tell you guys that this game does not disappoint in any of those areas. But before we get into that, if you could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, it would really help me out. Thank you. Starting off with the combat of the game, I mean, wow, the game has an M rating, which is a surprise. I don't think any other Final Fantasy game has an M rating. And contrary to popular belief, it's not an M rating because of all the gore and the guts and the blah 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 blah, although we do see a man get decapitated. Actually, because the game deals with mature themes, such like war, betrayal, murder, and they're not shy about it. Like within the first, I believe, the first hour of the demo. By the way, the demo was like the first 2 hours of the game. It's the prologue, and your save data from the demo will actually carry over to the main game. So yes, this is amazing. As I was saying, in the demo, we actually see, like, spoilers for anyone who hasn't played the demo, by the way, we actually see the beginning of how Clive, I guess, he's the prince, he's the son of the Archduke, how the kingdom falls due to betrayal. I'm not going to say who betrays who, because I really want you guys to play this demo. Play this game, it's amazing. But yeah, like I was saying, within the first like hour and a half of the game, a lot of major characters die that you would never have seen in a Final Fantasy game. You know, most will die off screen, or like they kind of like digitize and sparkle away, or there's no blood, nothing like this. But in this iteration of the game, people just straight up get murdered in front of you. It's real intense. Right out the gate, the story is significantly heavier than any other Final Fantasy game I've played. Mind you, I've played 10, 13, and 15. I did not finish 13 or 15 because the gameplay was just not my cup of tea. For those of you who do not know, you get to play as Clive when he's young, when he's a young adult, and when he's 35. And you start off the game when he's a young adult, in the middle of a freaking war, where we get to see Titan. Titan is an icon, basically the equivalent of an Aeon in Final Fantasy X, but in this iteration of the game, they're calling them icons, and there are certain people who are dominants for these icons who can partially use their abilities while in their humanoid form, and at some point they can actually just fully turn into this icon. As you guys can imagine, Titan is like is hundreds of feet tall. It is insane. The first 10 minutes of the game just shows you how large scale this game is going to be. We have two giant icons fighting in the middle of a battlefield, and once Titan takes a step onto that battlefield, there's an earthquake, and just like hundreds of people are just dying left, right, and center, because these two icons do not care about what's happening whatsoever. Without getting too much into spoiler territory, we see that Clive, the young Clive, who is, I guess, the equivalent of a prince, his life gets uprooted, and he ends up becoming a slave in a different kingdom, and that's where the demo unfortunately ends. And I am so excited for the rest of the game. If the demo is starting off this strong with these main character-like people just dying, I cannot wait to see the rest of the game. So I'm going to tell you guys right now, buckle up and get ready, because this is going to be a 100% Game of the Year contender just for the story alone. Moving on to the combat portion of the game. Guys, guys, please do not waste your time. Go download the demo because nothing I see will even compare to how good the combat feels in this game. Now, for those of you who do not know, the combat director for Devil May Cry is the person who is working or who has worked on the combat system for Final Fantasy 16. Do not worry, this is not a Devil May Cry clone. The timing and actions of things are nowhere near as tight as in Devil May Cry. It's a way more lenient, significantly more newcomer friendly. So for anyone who's not used to action games, this is a great starting point because the commands are simple, the combos are simple, and using your iconic abilities is just the press of 2 buttons. Everything is streamlined and made super simple. Combos feel good when you hit things. It feels weighty. Truly, wow. Like, you can tell that this was a project with a lot of love in it. Like, they actually cared about what they were doing. They just weren't like, oh, let's make another Final Fantasy game because we know it's gonna sell. No, they took their time and they built this combat system from the ground up to be unique and truly amazing, where it's an easy to learn but hard to master combat system. And for those of you out there who are more into the old school Final Fantasy turn-based RPGs and you don't like action games, well, don't worry because they've got a fix for you. When you start the game, they give you the option to whether to play in story mode or in combat mode. Now, the difference is in story mode, you start off with 3 items equipped on Clive. These items are called timely accessories. Accessory number 1, I believe, is called Timely Attack, which basically allows Clive to do a bunch of crazy combos using his iconic abilities, switching them by himself, air juggling opponents purely by pressing square, which again, for people who are not into learning a bunch of combos and timing like that, this is a perfect thing for someone who wants to do something cool but doesn't want or necessarily has the time to learn all these combats, you know, all these combos and whatnot. Timely accessory number 2 would have to be the timely dodge. Now, again, this is a high action game where there'll be like, I don't know, so far in the demo, I've seen a maximum of like around 10 enemies on the screen. One little complaint I'd have is that things are very dark, and I've got the brightness set to maximum, and I still find it hard to see. Maybe it's because I need glasses and I'm just refusing to buy them, but you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The ring of timely dodging will basically make whenever Cloud is able to dodge an ability, so obviously I'm guessing this kind of excludes any AoE abilities or any grabs, I would guess. I haven't been grabbed, but I would not be surprised if enemies have that capability to do so. Clive will automatically dodge out of the way. Again, if you don't have the time, you don't have the reflexes, or you're just not that good at video games, but you still want to have a good time playing this game, Clive will dodge attacks automatically. And as for the last timely accessory, it is the timely ring of, I believe it's a command. I have to double check, I can't remember the name right now. You have this companion dog with you named Torgal, and if by hitting the left arrow on the D-pad, it'll switch menus from your items menu to the Torgal command menu, allowing him to either sick, charge, or heal you. Now, obviously, in the heat of combat, this can be difficult to execute commands because if you do them at the right time, Torgal actually does bonus damage and can knock enemies into the air. Now, getting all this down while you're juggling enemies can be difficult. This timely accessory makes Torgal go on autopilot and will either heal, charge, knock up enemies for you, so you can have 100% of your attention on the fight and not on your dog. Now, the great thing about this mode is that these are items, these are accessories that can be put on and removed at any time during the game, except during combat. You can only change items when you're out of combat, including abilities as well. The reason why I like this system so much more than a regular, easy, hard, normal difficulty setting is because this incentivizes you to get better at the game. Why? Because you only have 6 accessory slots, and well, you have 3 accessory slots and 3 ring slots. Those 3 timely accessories actually fill up your ring slots. So if you want to make Clive more powerful, you would be recommended to change it up. Remove those timely accessories to add, you know, plus 10 tier damage, or maybe quicker cooldown, or one of your iconic abilities will do more damage. Speaking of iconic abilities, this is where we get the depth of the combat. Clive has a regular 4-hit square combo. I don't know if that's going to increase in the full game, and you also can weave magic attacks in that 4-hit square combo. With your iconic abilities, you guys remember the icons are the equivalent of the Aeons. You have your Phoenix, Titan, Shiva, Behemoth, and so on and so forth. Throughout the game, Clive will become more powerful and have access to different iconic abilities, and you can equip up to 3 icons onto your loadout. Having an icon equipped to Clive is basically like having a loadout in, like, I guess, Modern Warfare, which every time you equip an icon, you get to use 2 of their abilities. In the demo, they let you use Phoenix, Garuda, and Titan. Phoenix being fire and attack focused. I'd have to say Garuda is heavily mobility focused, and last but not least, what we got in the demo was Titan's iconic abilities of being earth and, I guess, a lack for better words, is AoE, counters, and defense focused. The reason why I say the combat is easy to learn but hard to master is because of these iconic abilities. Each iconic loadout allows you to have 2 iconic abilities and, I guess, 1 iconic skill. For Phoenix, the skill is a short teleportation, which can then be upgraded to teleport even further. However, when you fully upgrade an iconic ability, it allows you to equip the ability onto a different icon. So if you want to have Titan's blocking skill, because that's what Titan's skill is, he can block and counter, but you would like the knock-up abilities of Garuda, you could have 1 Titan ability which brings you back down from the air. It's like a slam attack called a Titanic Upheaval. Great way to end a combo or start a combo. So what you could do is you could block with Titan, get that counter, bring them into the air with Garuda's knock-up ability, and then slam them back down with Titanic Upheaval. Yes, it's that kind of game. They give you loadouts, and then they give you the ability to mix and match your loadouts, essentially allowing you to make up your own combo strings. Thankfully, they do not have any of the directional inputs that Devil May Cry games have, making the combos significantly more easy to access, to pull off, but still difficult to master. Next up, we're going to be talking about the graphics in the game. I'm not going to spend a huge portion of time on this because graphics are graphics. They're either good or they're either bad. Fidelity mode, right? This game is beautiful. It looks so good. It is buttery smooth, man. There are some areas that are not like, 10 out of 10, but throughout all of the cutscenes, I didn't see a drop in quality. Facial animations were good, a little bit weird here and there, but overall, fantastic. There were 0 pop-ins during any cinematic, right? 0 pop-ins during cinematic, which is just mwah. Wow. However, my little gripe, because nothing is perfect, is that the cutscenes are hard locked at 30 frames per second. They're not going any faster than that. They don't dip, but they are at 30 frames per second. If that's an issue for you, get over it, because it's a good game. And then we have performance mode, 60 frames per second. I did notice a couple of frame drops here and there, dropping around 50 to 46, 47 frames per second. Never ever going under 30, that's for sure. And honestly, barely even noticeable. Sometimes, however, during heavy combat segments, there's so much on screen happening with all the beautiful particle effects. It does get a little hard to see what is happening. In the demo, we are playing in a level where it is night, so things are a little bit harder to see. I'm looking forward to having that freedom to play during the day to actually see if things are just as hard to see, if the motion blur is too intense, because right now I would say that the motion blur is a little bit intense, okay? It's a little bit intense, telling where I am and what's happening, and I have taken a few hits because of that. It can be a little bit annoying, but besides that, I'm good. Also, I forgot to mention this. I should have said this in the gameplay section. What's up with the lock-on? Very weird. I feel like the lock-on system button wasted, right? I much would have preferred having R2 and L2 as being able to switch between my iconic abilities moving forward or backwards. Instead, they decided to have R2 only move forwards and have the lock-on button onto the one of the shoulder buttons, which I feel like a wasted button, because you could have just clipped that onto, you could have assigned that to R3, and you could have had the ability to switch back and forth. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know how to switch targets when I'm locked on. I don't know if I can. If I can, I haven't figured it out. So if anybody knows, please let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you. Moving on to the soundtrack. Now, the person who made the soundtrack for this game is the same man who made the soundtrack for Final Fantasy XIV. For those of you who do not know, this man was dying of cancer. And he didn't tell anybody because he wanted to keep working on the soundtrack for Final Fantasy XIV. Now, when it comes to dedication to his art, There is nothing comparable to this man, and he is working on Final Fantasy 16. When I tell you I am excited, I am gushing out of every orifice I can just to get a lick of that soundtrack. I am not exaggerating. Just in the demo, the soundtrack was amazing, and I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in the rest of the game. Do yourself a favor. Get a PS5 and play this game. Your life is going to get better. Facts. And with that being said, my friends, that's my rant about Final Fantasy 16. We spoke about it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.